Ida Mae Tutweiler and the Traveling Tea Party. Brew yourself a nice hot cup of tea. Ida Mae would suggest Earl Grey. Curl up on the couch with lots of pillows and enjoy. This is a book about love. It's the abiding love between a mother and a daughter, and the passionate love between a man and a woman. But mostly it's about the special love between best friends forever. Woven through the tapestry of a lifelong friendship is the story of quiet, reserved Ida Mae Tutweiler and the flamboyant daytime TV star Jane Tetley. It's about life and death, hope and the comfort to be found in a nice hot cup of tea. Included in the book are some of Ida Mae's favorite recipes for your own special tea time. And on the tea tray, put a box of tissues. You are going to need them.
Book lovers unite. I'm your host, Demethius Jackson, and you're listening to the Chapter 1 podcast. The greatest stories ever written all begin with Chapter 1. In each episode, our guest authors will share their first chapters with you. On today's episode, we have distinguished author and professional ray of sunshine, she's such a delight, Ginnie Bivona. She'll be reading the first chapter of her book entitled Ida Mae Tutweiler and the Traveling Tea Party. Ginnie actually began her writing career in her 40s, and her novel, Ida Mae, turned into a movie, So definitely stay tuned. This is one episode you don't want to miss. And Chapter 1 begins right now.
To my way of thinking, there's simply nothing that smooths away the sharp edges of the day quite like a nice hot cup of tea served late in the afternoon with a bit of a cookie or scone alongside. Scones are best, of course, if you can find the time to make them. Jane will be here in a few minutes. Dear old anything but plain Jane. She's the only woman I've ever known who can hold her own with the boys and knows exactly how to hold a cup like a lady. The table is set in the sunroom. It's my favorite place in this huge old house. Never mind that the plants have a dusty, unkempt look. I don't claim to have a green thumb. Even on the drabbest days, there's something comforting about being in here. Mum's teapot, yes, I still have it after all these years, sits patiently waiting on the sink beside the stove. It's already been filled with hot water to warm it up. The little silver tea ball filled with Earl Grey rests beside it, ready to pop inside its elderly rounded belly. I won't turn the kettle on until she gets here. Anyone who knows anything about tea knows you must get the water just to a full boil. You can't make proper tea till everyone is at the table. I've gotten the water hot, though. It won't take but a minute to get it right. The doorbell rings. The sound jars in the tiled kitchen. I quickly turn on the fire under the kettle before I go and let her in. On my 10th birthday, Mum gave me my first diary. She wrapped it in white tissue and tied a red ribbon around it. "This is your secrets book," she said to me. "You can write anything you want in here, and it's only for you to see. Not even I can read it." She showed me the clever little lock and tiny key that sealed it from all others' eyes. I was surprised at Mom giving me such a strange and wonderful gift. "Do you have one?" I asked. "That's for me to know, not you." She winked at me, and I remember how delicious her laughter sounded. Almost as delicious as sweet milky tea and Aunt Germaine's prize-winning orange marmalade-filled scones we shared in celebration of the day. The first entry, May 15, 1935, written in a careful round hand, all the I's dotted with tiny circles. Dear Diary, I don't know what I'll write in here, but Mum says this is my very own secret place, and I'm to write down whatever I want. Nobody, not even Mum, can read it. Today was my birthday, and Mum gave me this book. Aunt Germaine gave me a new green scarf to go with my winter coat. Why would she give me something I can't even wear till winter? I don't think she much likes me. They couldn't come to tea for my birthday because Bernadette was sick again. She is forever getting sick. I don't like her even if she is my cousin, so there. Here's my first secret. I don't like my fat cousin Bernadette. Aunt Germaine is always comparing me to her, and she is smarter, prettier, and better at everything in the whole wide world than I am. She is mean to me and sneaky too, and she never gets caught. I'm the one who always gets in all the trouble. Signed, Ida Mae Hampton. Jane burst through the door. Now that I think of it, I don't recall ever seeing Jane simply walk in anywhere. Off stage or on, she makes an entrance, into the house or into a room. I wonder what she looks like early in the morning going to the bathroom. "Darling, darling, darling, happy birthday to you," she trills. Packages are flung at me, and she whirls to grab still another bag left outside the door. It matters not to her that my birthday was months ago. Whenever she brings gifts, it's my birthday. Jane is not the least bit beautiful, and yet when you first see her, you think she is. Later you'll say she is stunning or striking, but not beautiful. It's the elegantly coiffed masses of jet black hair, the greenest eyes the contact lens people could create, a bit of clever surgery, and a figure that she straps and wraps and cajoles into a Juno-esque centerfold marvel. She smells like a French whore, but a very rich French whore, I must admit. I love her as much as anyone in my life. She is the life in my life. August 18th, 1939. Dear Diary, today I made a new friend, I think. She is very nice. Her name is Jane Potter. She is in my grade, and we sit beside each other in math and homeroom. She's lots taller than me, and braver too. She's not afraid to talk to anyone, even the boys. I could never do that. I feel dumb. It's hard for me to talk to the girls, and I really can't think of a thing to say to a boy. I'm always afraid they will not like me or something. I wish I knew how to be better, but I don't. Jane is just very outgoing. That's what Mr. Goodwin said in math class. He told her that she was very outgoing, but she was going to have to let him run the class. She told him that she could unless she thought he was doing something wrong, then she'd have to step in. The whole class laughed, and even Mr. Goodwin smiled. I don't know why she bothers with me, but she does, and I'm glad. Signed, Ida Mae Hampton. Jane grew up in the rich part of town. Well, rich for Walton Falls. She was an only child like me and lived in a huge brick house out on Old Mill Road. Being brick automatically made it a mansion, a notion that made Jane laugh wildly. The house had a huge backyard terraced down to a clear, fast-running creek. We loved playing down there. It was cool when the rest of Ohio was stifling in the summer heat. Her mother always reminded us not to play in that dirty creek water. We did anyway. We just made sure we dried out before we went back to the house. We loved grubbing around in the woods, hunting down old discarded stained glass windows. We had a great collection of round faceted stones that had been set in the designs. Christmas red and sapphire blue, golden amber and clear glass. They sparkled like rare jewels in the sunlight. Nowadays, of course, no one would dream of throwing out a wonderful stained glass window, but in those days they were considered hopelessly out of date, and anyone could afford it, had them removed and replaced with the much more fashionable window glass. That suited me and Jane to a T. We spent hours hunting down those abandoned treasures, and talking, always talking. We talked about everything except the things that caused us the most concern, and those were never mentioned. People did not discuss their troubles or problems when we were young, even to their closest friends, and they certainly never, ever discussed the weaknesses of family members. The only way I knew about Jane's parents is by what I could pick up from observation. I never once heard her say anything negative about them at all. Still, I was aware that things were not right in her home. Although I could not have expressed it, I just knew it. Jane's mother was a very unhappy woman. You could see it in her face. She never smiled that I can recall. Her lips seemed forever pinched in a thin line of disapproval, and there were deep frown lines between her eyes. She was a fanatic about her house, always cleaning something. We could not touch anything except in Jane's room. Once I picked up a magazine to look at the cover, and I thought Jane was going to flip. She grabbed the thing from my hand and put it back on the table as if it were a piece of a prized puzzle, and had to fit just exactly so. My mother doesn't want anything moved, not even a smidge. I laughed, halfway in embarrassment and halfway in disbelief, but the look of real fear on Jane's face shut me up immediately. She glanced furtively over her shoulder as if to make sure her mother hadn't seen us, and shooed me quickly out of the room. Her father was a handsome man, quite tall and slim, or so he seemed when I was young. He had a small mustache and thick, curly black hair. The few times I saw him, he was quite charming to me, but he was gone all the time. I don't think I ever knew what he did. Sometimes I wonder if Jane even knew. If so, she never told me, and then again, I don't think I was ever interested enough to ask. My mum was poor, and we lived in a house that was always in need of repair, with faded, peeling paint and dingy wallpaper that had been there as long as I could remember. But she loved me, and I knew it, and it was our house, not just hers. Jane and I were welcome anywhere. My room, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, even my mum's room when she was in it. And I could touch anything I wanted. So could Jane. I think I had a much happier childhood in spite of it. My mum smiled a lot and giggled right along with us when we got silly. We usually played at my house, but about every 2 weeks we'd have to go to Jane's for an afternoon. Her mother said it didn't look right to have her at my place all of the time. Now we don't have to worry about that anymore. Jane comes to my place always. Jane's father disappeared right after she graduated from college, and her mother finally drank herself to death. Jane told me so, dry-eyed, the day after she died. The papers called it heart failure. Jane sold the house, gave all the furniture to the Salvation Army, and never once looked back. We're at the table. The first cup has been poured, and now I'll begin the ceremony of the gifts. I wish she wouldn't do this to me, this extravagance, this overwhelmingness of giving. Even more, I wish I could enjoy it and not feel this whatever it is I feel. Unworthy, perhaps? Or perhaps it's because I can never repay, never could, can't now, and never will be able to repay in any kind. Why do I still get fussed? It's way too late now. We've been doing this dance for ever so long, and we're locked into the steps. The gifts, a white silk blouse, a black cashmere sweater, an exquisite rich purple jewel-toned Hermes scarf, are the sort of things she always lavishes on me. But I am delighted as well as baffled by the huge box holding a dozen jars of Sicilian blood orange marmalade. That's a lifetime supply. Only Jane would do a thing like that. Here's a list of the things you need for a proper tea. 1. Tea. Earl Grey is best. Never mind those namby-pamby flowery things. What you need is a stout, hearty tea with enough bones to pick you up and set you back on your feet. Finish off your day with grace. 2. A small pitcher of milk. Not cream is too heavy for tea. 3. A bowl of sugar cubes. Or, if you can afford it, Demerara sugar. Those wonderful golden crystals are my favorite. They remind me of tropical island sands, not that I've ever really seen any. Tongs for the sugar cubes and cloth napkins. Never, never, never use paper napkins. 5. A plate of cookies, homemade, or the best store-bought you can afford. A few small sandwiches cut into strips or little triangles, no crusts. Mom used to butter both sides of the bread, then top the bottom piece with a thin slice of cucumber or little red-edged round radishes. Lovely and crunchy. 6. Scones, hot from the oven, slathered with orange marmalade. Oh, heaven, if you can find the Sicilian blood orange marmalade. Never mind the cost. Some things are above considering the cost. I've written down the recipe for the scones. It's here somewhere where I've written down the rest of my recipes. 7. A freshly pressed tablecloth. Pastels, or white only. My favorite is the pink one that belonged to my mum. 8. China teacups and your best teaspoons. No mugs. Mugs won't do for a proper tea. It's best shared with someone else. Someone you love is the first choice, of course. But almost anyone can be pleasant company for half an hour or so. However, there are times when tea alone is exactly what you need. Then that makes 9. Another person, except when you want to be alone. Jane takes a long sip of her tea, sighs in contentment. She stretches her long legs out like a sun-warmed cat and then wiggles her feet till her shoes fall off. She finally speaks. I've got something to tell you, and I want you to behave yourself. No carrying on, do you understand? I'm the only one who is allowed to carry on. It's my job, and I do it quite well if I do say so myself. You are not getting married again, are you? Tell me you're not going to do that stupid M word again, Jane. I couldn't stand it. She looks tired, I think. There's a darkness under her eyes that even her custom-blended makeup can't hide. No, silly. I'm not going to get married. I'm going away. Actually, I'm going into hiding, and I'm not coming back out. I'm going away to die. She holds up a perfectly manicured hand. Don't say anything. I've made up my mind, and there's nothing that will change it. I've been to the best oncologists around, and they confirmed what I had already been told, already knew in my heart. I've got cancer in my lung. It started with breast cancer, but it's moved now. It's a very aggressive type, and the truth is, I'm on my last lap. I am stunned. My heart has stopped, as if I have been hit hard right in the middle of my chest. I try to speak, but there are no words, no breath to say them. It's my own fault. I found a tiny lump in my breast well over a year ago, but I decided it just had to be a small cyst and chose to ignore it. I didn't have time in my life to be running to the doctor every time some little thing popped up. Jane, how could you? My God, isn't there enough information about breast cancer? Every time you turn around, there's an article or an ad or something about it. My breath has returned, and with it, anger. How could she have done this? It's easy. You just refuse to acknowledge it. It doesn't exist, you see. I was too busy, too pressured. No time for medical problems. I wouldn't let myself think about it. I've had too many friends die of breast cancer, and I wasn't about to go through what they went through. Being chopped to pieces, pumped full of deadly poisons, losing all her hair, all of it. It's too painful, too horrible, and it scared me to death. Her voice sounds strange, full of irony. So that's exactly what happened. I was so afraid of the pain and of maybe dying that I literally let myself be scared to death. You don't have to tell me how stupid I am. I've already told myself 1,000,000 times. How do you know now? Maybe she hasn't found out everything. Maybe she just thinks she's dying. This whole conversation is unreal, crazy. If she pinched me right now, I wouldn't even feel it. Have you seen a doctor? Dozens of them. I have been poked, prodded, peered at, and inspected from head to toe like a side of prime beef. I finally was forced to go because I had a nasty cough that was interfering with my acting. The director told me to go get it fixed because they were having to tape over and over. Right in the middle of scenes, I'd start hacking away, and it was disrupting the filming. You can't do that for very long without somebody getting upset. What did they tell you? Just what I'm telling you. The cancer has gone into my lung. I've already been through 1 round of treatments, and it had no effect at all. It's growing really fast. I can choose to go through more treatments, but the prognosis is the same, no matter what. It's over. It's over echoes around the room and inside my head. Jane is still talking, and I'm trying to listen, trying to understand her words. Dying is a messy business, and I'm damned if I'm going to have a passel of people standing around weeping and wailing and watching me while I'm the one who's having to do all the hard work. Perish the thought. She laughs, but it's her stage laugh. I know it too well. I've taken a small cottage right smack beside my beloved ocean and hired a nurse companion to stay with me. No, I won't tell you where. It's all set, written in stone in a matter of speaking, right down to the very last act. And that one I'll play to an empty house. Thank you very much.
Here's the part of the show that I know you skip over, but we're going to do it anyway. I want to take this moment to share with you a few amazing things that I've discovered. If you're listening to this podcast, then I'm assuming you listen to podcasts in general. And if so, you really want to check out The Art of Charm, AOC with Jordan Harbinger. The Art of Charm brings together some of the best thought leaders, teachers, and exceptional individuals to teach you how to be a top performer in life, love, and at work. Imagine having a mix of experienced mentors teaching you their expertise, packing decades of research, testing, and tough lessons into a curriculum. That's what you get with AOC. I highly recommend this podcast for both men and women. I guarantee it will change your life. Be sure to listen to their show on iTunes or wherever podcasts are streamed. And for all of you aspiring writers out there, specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, if you're looking to take your writing to the next level, then the DFW Writers Workshop is for you. The DFW Writers Workshop helps and encourages North Texas writers of all genres and experience levels to produce professional quality writing suitable for publication. I've personally been involved with the DFW Writers Workshop for over a year, and these guys are amazing. Their weekly Wednesday meetings are held in Euless, Texas, and they have not missed a Wednesday since they began in 1977. I'm talking sun, rain, snow, sleet, hail, holiday, doesn't matter. They are there. And if you want to take your writing to the next level, you should be there too. Get in touch with the DFW Writers Workshop at their website, dfwwritersworkshop.org. Once your writing has reached publication, it's a good idea to have an organization behind you. And what better organization than the Texas Association of Authors? Texas Authors, as it is often abbreviated, is the only organization in Texas whose focus is to promote authors within the great state of Texas itself. The association leverages the knowledge and expertise of many of its different authors to help promote others within the world of reading and writing. As a nonprofit organization, Texas Authors relies on strong relationships with individuals, other nonprofit organizations, and publishing companies to help establish a presence in both local and statewide events. Utilizing technology, social media, and the knowledge of its members, Texas Authors gives you a unique advantage within an already competitive marketplace. Learn more about the Texas Association of Authors on their website at books.txauthors.com. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am sitting here with author extraordinaire Ginnie Bivona. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
Very cool. I'm very happy to have you on the show today.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, I can assure you of that.
So, let's just jump right into the book.
Okay.
Your characters, Ida Mae and Jane, have been lifelong friends, correct?
Yes.
Though personality-wise, they're completely different, just
Exactly.
complete opposites.
Yes.
So, what is it that makes their friendship work?
Inexplicable. It just is. They like each other, even though they're entirely different. There's just some kind of a bond that they discovered as children in grade school, and they've stuck with it throughout their lives.
What inspired you to create Ida Mae and Jane? Were they reflections of your own personality?
It's funny. I started writing one night. I was just noodling around, really not thinking about a book at all. And I wrote the first few lines, and then this person started talking, and she started talking about Jane, somebody coming to have tea with her. And as you heard, the story progressed into this shocking ending, and I was just writing what came into my head as it came into my head. And at the end of the first chapter, I was like, uh-oh, what do I do now? As a young woman, I had to deal with my mom had breast cancer. And a lot of the people in this book are based on people, my cousin particularly, and also another cousin who was an actress, quite glamorous. That's Jane. And it just unfolded. I didn't even know what Ida Mae's name was until I went to bed that night, and I thought, Ida Mae Tutweiler. Where did that come from? I have no clue. It popped into my head, and I was stuck with it.
Well, that's an example of the story writing itself.
Yeah, the creative process. You don't know what you're doing, you just do it.
Exactly, exactly. Which goes into my next question. So in the story, it's revealed that Jane is dying of cancer.
Yes.
This forces both characters to face some pretty harsh realities.
Yes.
What do you want the readers to gain from their friendship and their experiences in this book?
That's an interesting question. I think that I want them to gain the idea of love, companionship, and surviving, if you want to call it that, the loss and the pain of death in ways of saying goodbye and not hiding from it. That's what it's really about. Love in a variety of ways, because Ida Mae has a daughter, and she comes into the story a little later. And Jane loves Ida Mae's daughter because she never had children of her own, and Ida Mae's daughter is her adopted daughter. Then Ida Mae has a torrid fling, so, that is another kind of love. Mm-hmm. And Jane gets married off and on, she changes her shoes as often as she changes her husband's. So.
I gathered that from the first chapter. So the story deliberately takes place over tea. Is tea symbolic of something in general, or is it more a clever way to progress the plot and reveal their relationship?
Actually, the story started because I was remembering as a child, my mother was Irish English, and occasionally I would come home from school and she'd say, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And we'd have tea at the dining room table. I would choose from my grandmother's hand-painted china teacups, and we would sit there and have cookies. I don't think she ever made scones, but we did have cookies, and have tea with milk and sugar. And the night I started writing this book, the reason I started writing was because I was remembering those cozy afternoons having tea with my mother. And then the story stepped in, unexpectedly and completely unplanned. But that's how it began, from my childhood.
Your book also includes some really good recipes for tea. Can you tell us about them? And do they tie into some of your cookbooks?
They're strictly for tea parties, although for lunch or, any time that you're entertaining or even just want something good to eat. I love to cook. My father was a cook, and I watched him cook every Sunday. Although he was Italian, we didn't do tea with Daddy. But I couldn't talk about all these things with tea without including them in the book, because if I read a book like this, I would want to know how to make these things. So I thought maybe somebody else would too.
So your book, Ida Mae Tutweiler and a Traveling Tea Party, was actually made into a Hallmark movie.
Yes.
That's a phone call every author wants to receive. Can you tell us about your experience and what it was like watching your creation born into film?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's really any words in any language that can describe how it feels. When I found out that it was actually going to be turned into a movie and Hallmark was going to produce it, it was like a night I've never known in my life. Well, I didn't sleep for 3 nights. All I could do was just lay there and giggle and grin and toss and turn. And then I was invited, if I wanted to come out to watch them film. And of course, I didn't turn that down. I went with my youngest daughter, and the filming was done at the little house on the Prairie set, which happens to be way, way out in the wilderness in the Simi Valley. We were driving down a dirt road for like 30 minutes with all you could see was a couple of cows and some hills and grass and some trees. And then all of a sudden we went around a curve and we pulled in, and there was this huge parking lot with probably at least 60 or 70 cars. And off to my left was a long row of trailers and a huge tarpaulin with a great big, what looked like a catering thing beside it. And I realized that that was all there because I had written those first few lines all those years ago, because it was 9 years before it went from book to movie. Takes a little time. Hollywood is not known for their speed. That was the most stunning moment in my life ever. Just realizing all those people were being paid to be there because I had written this little story.
It's amazing.
Overwhelming. It was just absolutely an incredible feeling, especially for me, because I came from a world where you grew up, you got married, you had kids, you learned how to play bridge, and poof, you were done. And here I am all these years later, and these people are making a movie that I wrote. And I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it. It had Meredith Baxter. Lesley Ann Warren wasn't at that filming because she had already done her part. But Timothy Bottoms was there. Bridget Ann White, Holt McCallney, and Ellery Sprayberry were all there. And the director, who happened to be from Texas, which I thought was kind of fun. Late in the afternoon, the director said, "Where's Gin? I want Gin in here." And I thought, ooh, he's going to put me in another scene. He had put me in a scene earlier in the kitchen, just very brief, like a 2-second thing. And I walked in. This young woman was standing there with a giant box. And in the box was a cake with a picture of my novel in frosting on top. And the whole cast and crew sang happy birthday to me.
Oh, wow.
Because it was my birthday.
That's awesome.
You talk about a birthday, that's the biggest, best birthday present I ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, just hanging out in the little house on the prairie.
Really? I mean, I'll never get over it.
So, you've written quite a number of books throughout your writing career. What are you currently working on?
Currently, I'm working on a project called Ageless Authors. We are going to produce anthologies, and the only qualifying requirement is the author has to be over 70. Because my goal is to prove that aging is not awful, aging is awesome. And creativity gets much, much better when you have a lot of the pressures that you have in a younger life are relieved. And you can just let your creativity go through the roof. And for many, many people, it does.
I think I heard somewhere that 70 was the new 30.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Well, that definitely gives us all something to look forward to.
It's a blast.
So tell us a little about yourself. How did you first get into writing?
Well, one Sunday afternoon, I was sitting at my kitchen table. I was 42 years old. My husband, he was watching the Cowboys, cussing out the Cowboys. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what now? I mean, I've had the kids, I've got the house, I've got everything I'm supposed to have. I know how to play bridge. Where's my life go from here? There was a yellow legal tablet sitting on the kitchen table. and a pen. And I pulled it over and I started writing. And I'd never written a line in my life. I was an artist. I painted, but I had never written anything. And I started writing. And I wrote this poem titled The Sad Lament of a 42-year-old housewife who has suddenly discovered she's been in protective custody all of her life. Or she did what she was told to do. And that started my writing life. And I wrote for 3 days, and my husband kept saying, "What are you writing?" Because I was pissed, and I wrote a lot of stuff about raising kids and housework and all those boring things. And he kept saying, "What are you writing? What are you writing?" And I said, "Oh, never mind, it's nothing." And I got up on Wednesday morning, and I went out in the kitchen, and my husband was standing there. And he said, "Well, I read what you wrote." And I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble now. And he said, "It's really good. I'm going to take it to work and have Betty type it up." And I was blown away. Supportive, yes. That book is called Notes from a Chameleon, sort of a memoir, and I have now written in it bits and pieces of my life up until the day I was standing in the living room of the little house on the prairie having Happy Birthday sung to me.
Amazing. So where can readers and fans find you online and find your work?
I have a webpage, GinnieBivona.com, and my books are there. And then they're also, Ida Mae is audio and ebook and print, and my cookbook is ebook and print. And I have 2 other books, and they're also all on Amazon.
Okay.
So everything's on Amazon.
Excellent. Well, thank you for talking to us today. I really do appreciate you taking the time and just giving us some insight into what you do in your work.
I am delighted that you asked me. I really appreciate your help, Demethius. It's been so much fun.
Once again, that was Ginnie Bivona, author of Ida Mae Tutweiler and the Traveling Tea Party. What can I say? We're getting good at this. Or at the very least, we've got a system. That's got to count for something, right? So, as always, I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes because I'm having a great time recording them. We have something here for both readers and writers alike, and there's much more to come. Till next time.